Well, I'm so excited to talk with the two of you. Holy moly, what a season for you both in so many different ways. I would love to start with like just getting to the season in the first place because you two are both Survivor alumni, but you come to the Challenge USA in such different spots. Chris, you've been, sitting for nearly 5 years with this reputation of, as you said, being the worst Survivor winner, undeserving, etc. So when you get the call to, albeit go on a different CBS reality show, what's your first reaction?
I came in, I had nothing, yeah, everything, like nothing to lose, everything to gain. Like I just went in and was like, I'm gonna make this worth it. Whatever that looks like, I'm going to make this so worth it. And by the end of it, I want to be proud of my efforts. As it turned out, didn't realize that that was going to be, four elimination wins and a challenge final win. But that's all I wanted to do was make it worth it, make my family proud. And yeah, I definitely came in with a chip on my shoulder coming out of retirement. I was like, I'm gonna prove that I am deserving of the Survivor win and being a badass competitor on the challenge. So it ended up working out.
Well, Desi, you talk about chip on your shoulder. I mean, obviously, you were looking for some unfinished business coming into this, but we also saw you very emotional, understandably, the last time that you went through this experience. And obviously, we'll talk about some of those struggles similarly in this house. Was there a part of you that was like, do I want to open myself up to this again? Or was just the idea of being able to hopefully finish what you started a year ago just overwhelm everything?
No, I mean, there's always this fear, like, what if I come back and do worse than I did the first time around? And to have gone out in such a like traumatic way last season, also, what if that happens again? Like that was
Hmm.
devastating at the time. So I definitely took a pause when this opportunity came and had to think like, do I want to put myself through this again? Because being in that house is stressful. Being a part of that game is stressful. And I don't think I can't compare it to anything else. I've gone to grad school. I have a doctorate degree, but like I cannot compare that to anything else I've done. So I did have to pause, but at the end of the day, I'm one of those people who wants to live without regrets. Um, so I could not go right at the end of the day.
It was a $250,000 decision. So let's get into getting those paychecks because I do feel like for both of you, despite the stacked competition around you with that final, it was pretty much, especially on that second day, like you kept pushing through, and once you hit those stations, it really was no looking back. So Desi, for you again, you're re-experiencing this final. I mean, what was going through your head, especially as you're succeeding with the axe, you're getting in the ATV, you're passing people by. Is there actually a feeling that manifests in you of like, oh my God, I actually did this? Or are you still saying there's still a great equalizer coming up? I could still fall out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of both, right? Because you get to a point where you're like, okay, I haven't seen a woman in a really long time. So either someone had like, I'm on the wrong path. We also were running for miles, right? On
Mm.
like through the woods. It was not the path was not always clear. So it was like either I'm on the wrong path or they're on the wrong path or I'm way ahead of them. But so part of me was like, I think I'm definitely winning this. And the other part of me was like, I could also be going the wrong way. So until I saw Corey and I met up like right before building those cinder blocks. I wasn't even sure if I was going the right way. I was like, I guess
Mm.
this is the path. There's kind of an arrow there. But hopefully this is what I'm supposed to be doing and I'm about to win this thing.
Well, Chris, what about you? Because you come in as a rookie against three veterans, including a seven-time champion. And so you got to be thinking for the umpteenth time, you're the underdog in this. So on that second day, especially when you find yourself kind of like surging ahead, what is going through your head? Is there a little bit of like, this is too good to be true? Johnny Bananas is just going to like apparate in front of me at some point.
I went into day two with just like so much fire. I didn't want to just win. I wanted to destroy the competition. I wanted to prove that I could absolutely crush these guys. And so even though when I was in front after risk station one with the axe throwing and then weighed the scales and got on the ATV, but even after I got on the ATV and I knew that I was the front runner, I was just like, these guys, they're gonna be left in the dust. I'm gonna keep on going, keep pushing. I'm in last place. Like they're right in front of me. They're right in front of me. So all the way up the mountain, I was just imagining, the back of Banana's head, running up the mountain. I was like, I'm gonna track you down, mother effer, like cursing up a storm, yelling out loud. I was in just a whole element of my own up there, just running up that mountain. But ended up crushing them. I beat them by a good distance.
Yeah, well, let's rewind a little bit and talk about gameplay throughout the season, because you two were on quite different paths, to Desi's point, perhaps, about like the longer one versus the shorter one. I mean, Desi, I got to ask about this alliance with you and Michaela and Chanel. Was this something that naturally come together? Obviously, you all have a lot in common. Talk to me about maintaining that dynamic throughout the season.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest misconception is I think people thought we came into the season together, which couldn't be further from the truth. Like Chanel came in to this game with so many relationships that I was like, not gonna be able to trust this girl because she's friends with literally everyone. I don't think her social game was shown, but like Chanel talked so much, like she did so much socially in the game that I just was like, I'm not sure if I can trust her, but we'll just see how this plays out. So it wasn't until probably like a third halfway into the game where I was like, all right, these are my girls and I'm riding to the end with them. So that was something that really developed over the season, but I don't think it was shown that way because we started as like, there were a lot of girls kind of working together. All the rookie girls essentially were working together. And then it just kind of got whittled down to where it was like, all right, now we got to choose teams. And that was the team I chose.
Well, Chris, we go from team to quite the individual perspective. I mean, I'd be remiss not to discuss this. I'll call it spiraling that happened in the middle of the game during that one round. You're put in by Fessel, and then you just start throwing every single name under the bus, probably even some of the camera crew at that point. I mean, talk to me about that perspective from your point. What was going through your head as you were just trying to grasp at anything to avoid going into elimination?
Yeah, I was pretty much right off the bat from my side of things. How I thought things were playing out was I was locked in with Josh and Michelle, Desi from the very beginning, and then even though I was, one of the rookies, I didn't discuss gameplay with Tyler. I didn't discuss gameplay with Monty, any of the Amazing Race guys. Like I wasn't strategizing with rookie men, like where Desi was with rookie females. So we kind of were all on our own. I thought that I was getting taken care of. Like if there was going to be one rookie left, it was going to be me, and I thought I was going to get taken care of by, extension of Josh, extension of Michelle. Fessy was both of their number ones, and then I had a lot of conversations with Tori. So when that vote happened, I was like, holy crap. What I thought was going on is not going on. I'm at the bottom of the Survivor Alliance and at the bottom of the vet, alliance, the middle game. Who can I even trust? And kind of what happened was as I started, blurting out everyone that I was working with, I definitely spiraled. It was an opportunity for a lot of people who were also playing the middle or had different conversations with vets or rookies. It all just kind of came on me, and I had to bear the cross, so to speak, for a little bit in the game. And then I realized on the other side of it was like, I'm not going to do any good trying to dig myself out of this one, except taking it on the chin, telling people who I would like to go in against, and hope that I not get voted in. And if I do, I'm just going to have to win. And so my season, like I shifted and just kind of tried to adapt as best as I could. Once I realized that who I had aligned with or thought I had aligned with there was multiple people on the pecking order, and I was at the bottom of that in terms of who they would have to choose if they were going to nominate somebody. And so it's just, it is what it is. Like I bet on the wrong people and got, just if I were to go back, I probably would have aligned much more with the survivors from the beginning and the rookie guys. But hey, that's not as fun television, that's not as fun TV. So I had to have a little chaos in there to make a good show.
Absolutely. I mean, from that perspective, once you end up winning that elimination and kind of recovering from that, we saw bits and pieces. Like you did have a conversation with Desi, it seemed. You did have a conversation with Michaela. How were you navigating the game? Because to your point, you were pretty much put in every time you weren't safe after that. But were you trying to rebuild some of those relationships that were broken with your move?
Oh, I definitely was. And as I realized that Josh and Michelle were going to look out for vets before they were going to look out for me, that put me in a position where I had to trust Desi and I had to trust Chanel. We had to work together. I mean, I was the only rookie guy left. I had eliminated all the other rookie guys pretty much. So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, we're, we're gonna have to get through this together. And I think that they started to trust me after I realized like they were my only hope. You know, they were my only way out. So towards the end, I think the Survivor Alliance was strong in the beginning, kind of fell apart, and then once we realized that we were gonna have to vote in Michelle, we were gonna have to vote in Josh, myself, Chanel, Desi. Michaela never really trusted me to begin with, but I knew that as it was. So I kind of just went with with Desi and what Desi and Chanel were trying to tell me to do, and we ended up making it to the end.
Yeah, so to that point, Desi, you end up becoming a part of what I feel like was maybe the most impactful deal of the season with Tori deal when Tori comes to your alliance and says, okay, let's all look out for each other. Now, Michaela does challenge that at one point, but like clearly you, considering the response to that, were like very adamant about sticking to that. Why was that the case?
I think in general, I'm just a really loyal person. I mean, it's what got me voted out of Survivor, right? I was like, I know I can vote at my closest ally and I can live to see another day in this game, but would that be true to me? So I think just at heart, I'm a super loyal person and I want to trust the people who trust me and vice versa. Like in an environment where so many people are lying, it's nice to know who's not lying to you. So I think once I made that promise, it was important for me to, I mean, obviously I veered from that one vote and it kind of like tore me up. So I circled back to it the next time around. But I think that's just part of my character and not great for reality television, but in real life, it's a great character trait to have.
Yeah, well, I'd love to talk about that though, because you talk about the aftermath of that moment, and again, there is this series of events we get before the first and only elimination that you're a part of, where like you seem to be undergoing a lot. There's a lot of like imposter syndrome, I think, from your perspective as to like, am I doing a good job? And to your point, I think it's safe to say you were navigating a very cutthroat game that is not something you would like to do in your day-to-day life, if possible. So talk to me about that sort of emotional journey you had over the course of the season. This obviously wasn't your first rodeo on the Challenge USA, but it did feel like, at least from our perspective, a significantly harder season than the last one.
Yeah, I mean, just the level of gameplay this season and the level of, I think, like mind trickery going on in the house. Because at one point, like Josh was trying really hard to be buddy buddy with me. Like there were so many people who were saying one thing and doing another thing, that it just makes you second guess every single conversation you have. Whereas I feel like season one, like people were pretty straightforward. Like once you were part of the winners group, you were basically safe in the game. So once you had won a daily, you were basically safe in the game. And this was just such a different game, especially with the hopper, and you can lie behind a hopper vote. So I think that was difficult for me. But on the other hand, I think just in general, like if I've not done something before, I just don't have a lot of confidence in myself. I'm like, I could go ass up, or I could do great at this, but I'm going to err on the side of caution, and this is probably going to go ass up.
Hmm.
So I think that's hopefully one thing I'm taking away from this season is just to trust myself a little bit more. And I'm more capable than I think even I realize.
Chris, I feel like it's now synonymous with you on CBS reality TV that you find yourself, out on an island alone, having to fight your way back to the game. As you said at one point, I'll come back. I always come back. But understandably, we saw you break down a couple of times. As much as you said that you wanted to just come in and do well for your family, I would imagine a lot of the mounting pressure, and especially your position of just having to win and survive, really put a lot upon you. Talk to me about that from your own perspective.
It was definitely an emotional journey for sure. It's hard, man. I mean, we're watching, episode at a time, and it's showing 40 minutes of days and weeks of
Mm.
just trying my best to be resilient and trying my best not to spiral again, because the emotions are real. We're playing a game, but we're not gamers. Like we're real people with real feelings. Josh is a great example of that, and I'm pretty emotional myself. Like my energy is like, I get, my highs are really high, my lows are really low. I'm not super stoic. I can get, I can run my mouth, and that got me in trouble. And so I had to learn to adapt and be okay with, like, if things outside of my control happen, like if the wave comes, just ride the wave. Wherever that takes me, wherever that, don't try to fight the current, just ride the wave. And you're not going to be able to control anything. You've already lost control in the game. So all that you can control is yourself. Adapt what comes your way. Don't get upset if someone it lies to your face, because every vote you go into, you think someone is telling you the truth, and you only find out if they're not telling you the truth after the cards have been revealed, the votes have been cast, and the nominations have been put in. So no one ever tells you that you're going to get nominated. So over and over and over again, that happened to me. And I just, instead of getting mad at the people who did that, I just had to let go of the control of that and understand that this was like, I was going to get myself through this, and I had to be resilient, and I had to be mentally tough. And that's an emotional and a difficult journey to do day in and day out. It's just, it can wear on you. But I knew I was not going to give up. Like they were gonna have to kill me. Like literally, I was like, these guys are gonna have to kill me before I give up, before I lose. So I just had some grit there, and I persevered.
Yeah, well, you killed it in the process, which leads me to, of course, my last question for each of you. I mean, Chris, you put forward, I think, one of the best rookie efforts we've ever seen in the challenge, whether it's tying or sometimes even beating elimination records, the win streak that you went on. Now that you've gone through all of that, beat these challenge vets in the final, are you feeling like a personal satisfaction? Or when TJ, and if TJ gives you a call and says, hey, come to the MTV flagship show, are you willing to take a bite and make it 2-for-2 on championships?
That's a tough question. It feels really good right now, being 2-for-2. Anytime you say yes to another opportunity, you put yourself at risk of losing or not performing as well as you wanted to. But I come from a background of being super competitive, and I want to win, and I want to be the best, and I want to go to the end with the best, and I want to beat the best. So it would have to be more so about whether I'm in a place outside of reality television, like I'm in a good spot in life, because there's sacrifices that I have to make. It's pretty. I mean, it's selfish to come out and do these shows. Like, I'm
Yeah.
leaving family, I'm leaving employees, I'm leaving work, but it's worth it, in so many ways. So it's got to be a big, like, TJ's got to have. It's gonna be a big ask. It's gonna be like, hey, this is a season you don't want to miss. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah. What about you, Desi? Because again, on the one hand, you were able to kind of like slay this demon, take home that challenge championship. On the other hand, you did mention that maybe the house was a bit too cutthroat for how the way you usually play. Would you make the crossover to the MTV franchise if given the chance?
I think all of our beige flags is that we're competitors and we love to compete. And we love to win, right? So I want to say no, like I want to say it's a hard no, but I can. But again, stars, it's a big sacrifice, especially the MTV version is so much time. They would certainly have to shave off some time. I own a business. I mean, it's hard to leave a business for 2 months. It'd be like probably sabotage to leave it for 3. So yeah, it would have to be a huge ask. The
Yeah.
stars would have to align, but
Well,
again, we
yeah.
like competition, right?